So hey everyone, so we're back again. How is everyone doing? As you see, there's my sister, and we're just gonna dive
Hello.
right into it. So last week we talked, we had some great discussions. This week I'm going to open it up to questions for next week. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment
Sounds
box
good.
below, and we're going to respond to those questions in our next week video. But for this one, I'm just going to get right into it. So tell us about Yellowstone. Here you are on the road. Are you by yourself at this point?
Starting out, no. So, I was a little apprehensive about driving from Baltimore, Maryland to Yellowstone, which is in Wyoming, by myself. The first time driving this big 32-foot vehicle, that I had asked a friend if he wanted to drive cross country with me. And circumstances for him made it like an opportunity he didn't want to pass up. And he asked me if it would be okay if his son could accompany us as well. So the three of us, this trio, set out from Baltimore, Maryland, cross country to Wyoming. So no, I wasn't by myself on the maiden voyage across country.
Okay, so you have your two friends with you. At what point in the trip do they disembark? I mean, I would love to get more into them, but I told them I would be limited. So what time did they leave you?
After arriving in Yellowstone,
Okay.
we got in there. They'd spent maybe a day or two, and father and son decided that they wanted to rent a convertible and drive that distance back with one another and have their own little private bonding session. So we were there for 2 days before they headed back to Maryland.
And how many days did it take you to get there?
Purposefully, I wanted it to last as long as possible. So I actually left a week before the date that I was supposed to arrive for the job posting that I had. So yeah, I think it took us about 6 days.
6 days. 6 days, and you had organized your job. You have a job waiting for you when you get there. So this 6-day adventure, I didn't ask you earlier, but what type of RV it was? We know it was a 33-footer, but what was
32.
Oh, excuse me, 32. So what's the entire name, including the year?
Well, it was a 1989 Fleetwood Pace Arrow. It was 27 years old or 26 years old when I bought it. She was in a mild state of repair and good condition. But yeah, she's 32 foot, could sleep up to 6 people very comfortably, full kitchen, bathroom, shower, yada, yada, yada. But yeah.
On that first trip, did you have any mechanical issues?
Oh, God, yes. I'm trying to think what would have... So the first repair we had to do had to have been the fuel filter on the Defiant. I had tune-ups and spark plugs changed, oil changed, tires checked, all of that prior to hitting the road, as well as the fuel filter. But what I did not know about the specific make and model of RV that I had is that there were 2 fuel filters. And so we were in Pennsylvania, I think, at that point, and we had really started into the heavy mountainous region and doing these serious inclines. And in the Fleetwood Pace Arrow, the fuel tank is in the back of the RV. So as you're on an incline going up, you've got to have a really good fuel pump to be able to pump that gas that's now here at the bottom going up the hill all the way up to the engine. And a dirty fuel filter means you're going to sputter and putter, and essentially at the worst we were going like 15 miles an hour up the end grade, and it was horrible. And yeah, we figured out it was a fuel filter, so we pulled into a Cracker Barrel. I Google searched the closest, AutoZone or auto replacement parts place and got a fuel filter. But yeah, that was the first of many repairs.
Oh, okay.
Not just on that trip, but many repairs in general.
And I think everybody realized that when you have your traveling home with you, this is something that is on wheels, it's moving around.
Yep.
It's going to creak, bump, leak, and
shake. Things come loose as they're shaking around. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's empowering, as a female who was not taught to be mechanical or even to want to learn how to do such things, to be kind of thrown in the deep end of it all and say, okay, you're going to learn by experience that, you know, you are capable of doing this. And I've come to the philosophy, if a man made it, then a woman can figure it out.
Hey.
Holla at your girl. Holla at your
girl.
girl.
Holla
So, you know, I learned
Cheers.
how to work on, you know, a vehicle.
Cheers to that. Gonna have to do
Cheers.
Bam.
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 Well, no, it's bad luck not to sip.
Got to.
But yes, I feel like I am capable, and not in terms of just what I know now, but that I have all of the resources to find the information and be comfortable enough to do it myself.
And that's, you know, so hey, thumbs up to you because, you know, you didn't let that stop you. You know, the journey continues on.
Yes.
So now here we are, we're fast forwarded. We don't went through all the bumps and grinds. A couple of friends that had taken this journey with us because, you know, hey, and I, you know, and that's great that you could, because I would want that for you, as your sister I would want. I don't want her to do this drive for the first time by herself. So
right.
The fact that you had some people to go with you, I think that's great. But now that that's over and you're at Yellowstone and you're working, like I'm going to fast forward a little bit, place. We're not going to go through the orientations and what you need to do. But you're working, you've been there for a few days, maybe a week at this point. What type of people did you meet? And how did they receive you? Be honest. Be honest.
Absolutely. Okay, so for my African American friends who would talk to me about setting out on this journey, the number one thing that I always get questioned were, what was it like being black and out here doing it?
AKA black people in Wyoming. Do they exist?
No. I probably was the only spot of pepper in that bowl of milk. But I'll say this, the type of people that are drawn to this lifestyle, nomadic, vagabond kind of thing, they are people that are from different backgrounds, maybe not as diverse of racial backgrounds, but economic, religious, philosophies, just general lifestyles. So they're already used to it being kind of like a motley crew kind of thing, just people from everywhere. What made it stunning for most people is just the pigment of my skin. They're not used to seeing somebody this dark. But
did the stereotypes come with that dark
no, I think I was more apprehensive about it. And then when I got there and I didn't see it, it was never a subject. It was never a topic of conversation. You know, my blackness or even being black. It was never. It was more of, you're a woman in an RV by yourself. You're only 40 years old and you're doing this, or you're 40 years old and wow, you should still be in the grind, you know, paying your mortgage, doing whatever. The people that I met, there was a specific age range. I think I may have mentioned this in the last video, that they are either 20 to 25 years, because I'm old now, younger than me, or 20 to 25 years younger than me. So it was this niche that I may have been 1% of the population, you know, of the people that worked there in Yellowstone. Honestly, I only remember one other person that was close to my age, and he was like 34. Oh, wow. And I was like 41, 42 at the time. So yeah, it was a big age gap difference.
Okay, so now I'm just going to hit you with this question. What's your best? What's your
best
experience?
I like to start off with the positive. So the best experience I had was having some of my coworkers over to the Defiant, my RV. But I have to start at the beginning. So not only are there Americans working in your national parks, they do hire people from other countries to come over and work in the national parks as well. And we had a lot of kids that were from Malaysia and from Taiwan. And so being in these close quarters, living and working together, you develop friendships. And there was this one evening where I was working second shift, and everybody that was getting off first shift wanted to come and hang out in my RV. And so I just gladly handed over the keys to my home to my newly found friends. And when I got home, I looked around, and there were you know, Caucasians and a Native American and Hispanics and Taiwanese people just all hanging out in my home. They had started cooking food. The liquor was flowing. Everybody was having a good time. The smoke was moving around, and it just felt like
smoke?
weed.
Okay, go on.
The smoke was moving around, but it just felt like so welcoming. It was exactly the experience I wanted to have. I wanted to get to know different cultures. I wanted to be in a different part of the world, and I wanted us to find our commonalities together. And here it was being facilitated in my home, and it was started when I wasn't even there. We had such a good time that evening. It was by far one of the best, not the best experience I had in Yellowstone, but one of the best experiences I've had in my life.
Oh wow, that's incredible, and that's wonderful, and you know that's just, it's wonderful to know that type of reception.
Yes,
so that's what I call it, a reception is there and it's positive, and that says a lot about the character or person you are. So kudos to you. Kudos,
thank you,
kudos.
Thank you.
Now, but I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't switch gears and you know stay with honesty here.
Right.
And we're only talking about Yellowstone.
Right.
So what was it? What was the worst?
So it had nothing to do with the location. It had nothing to do with living on the road, living in an RV. Had nothing to do with any of that. It was something that I think most people will find that they can identify with. It was in regards to the working situation. So I had changed positions about 3/4 of the way through my time there in Yellowstone. I had went from working in the retail section in apparel to working in the cafe. And so there were different group of people that I was being introduced to. And in making that switch, I was no longer in a position of authority. I was a subordinate. And the person that I was subordinate to, he did have his issues with race. And he made no effort whatsoever to make it known that he was going to judge me not on my work ethic, not on my personality, not on anything other than the pigment of my skin and the texture of my hair.
Well, let's be clear. When you're saying that this was a race issue,
It was
a race issue. You know, I want the viewers to understand with that. When you say race issues, were there slurs?
No, it was nothing that overt, but it was.
So, if it was subtle, then I think we need an example, because we don't want people out here to thinking that what I would say. This is my word saying, oh, the typical reaction. Everybody is racist, and it's not. We're just being ourselves. And a lot of people sometimes don't realize being yourself at the expense of others is considered racism.
Well, yes. I mean, it's all on the individual actions, and you've got to look at the circumstances.
And we would never judge a whole entire race by one individual.
I'm not going to judge anybody by anybody else's behavior. Exactly. But in this case, this particular gentleman, it was in his tone of voice, how he would give direction to me. I was often not referred to with any reference to my age. It was as if I were a child, and there's nothing more offensive to an African American adult than to call them boy or girl.
And so what did he say to you exactly?
Well, I was referred to as girl on more than one occasion until I had to nip it in the bud and made the statement of I haven't been a girl in 30 years. But it was that. It was also the choice of assignments.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So when he addressed you, he didn't say, darling, do this. Darling, can you get that? It was, darling, hand me this. It was, girl, come here.
Well, yes, it was that, and it was also in, more often than not, it just in reference to me. So if he were talking to a third party, well, I asked the girl to do this. And so, and I want to add this. I want to add this. I don't know how he saw me because I can't see through his eyes. Right. I can only tell you how he addressed me.
And how you interpret it.
And how I internalized it and chose to react to it. But yeah, I want to be clear though that this was an isolated incident. That I will give certain leeways to generational differences. I've had older black women refer to me as the colored girl. And that is just the language that they use at the time. I can't take offense of another black woman who may be in her 80s calling me colored,
right,
because that's
that.
the language she uses.
It's habit, and the only thing we can do
Absolutely.
is take that
roll with it.
Well,
she 80 years old. You can say whatever the hell you want to say.
80, I ain't gonna say nothing. But if you're 24 and white, I have an opinion.
Well, he was more like 60 something.
And I was like 60. I would have had an opinion.
But I want to give him the graces and going that for his generation, this was more than acceptable behavior. This was the normal.
Okay, so with that
so
being
I
said,
gave him graces on that.
You
Right.
were born in the 70s, and there's a 20-year gap. And there's a 20-year gap. So he's born in the mid 50s. Now, with that being said, he's born into the heart of the civil rights movement.
Right, right. But let's also say that he's from East Texas. So if anybody knows anything about that region, then that adds another layer on it. My point being is, again, isolated incidents. I take into account his age. Right. The region of the world that he was born in. And I'm, again, not going to judge anybody else on someone else's behavior.
This is an ignorant individual.
This person rubbed me the wrong way, and I felt that I could not effectually handle this situation without acting my stereotype instead of my personality. That I actually left Yellowstone for about a week. I resigned my position, headed out, spent a little bit of time in Utah, collected myself, and said I wanted to finish out the season, partly because there were some financial incentives if you stayed until the end of the season, that I just didn't want to miss my money. So I got myself together, and then I came back, and my third level supervisor, the person over him and over the person that was over him, the big boss, understood the circumstances and welcomed me back open arms. But I needed to walk away from it and do a reevaluation and say it was this individual. And
that's the generous of the employer, because a lot of employers.
I was a hard worker though. He knew what he was missing that week.
That's what it comes down to. We like to we have a certain. When I say we, I mean me and you. We have a certain work ethic that
absolutely
that has been ingrained with us. I know that I've been working since I was 14. And
holla, me too.
And you've been working when you turned 14. And we grew up in the 80s where it was like, hey, and we grew up with a baby boomer as a mother. So it was like, hey, your word is bond. If you say you're going to do a task, you do it. And then it's like, let the task be its own reward. And maybe that has a lot of negative.
So few people that I know that actually believe that way.
Right, because it's so different now, because now money is the reward. What are you doing for me now?
The reward of a job well done is a job well done. That is it. But I want to say that overall, that did not by any means taint my experience there in Yellowstone. What I set out to accomplish going there, I more than 1,000-fold received what it was that I wanted to accomplish. And when I recall the memories of my experience there, the only reason why this came to mind is because I was asked the question. It never comes up in my mind because it wasn't that impressionable. I guess you could say it's old hat. I've had that experience before, so it's like, okay. Get the dirt off my shoulders. We good. Next adventure, let's move.
And like you said, let's and thank you so much, because I did ask the question. I did ask you to that, because I really do think it's important for that.
I do too.
But let's sum it up with positiveness.
All right.
Because one of your closest friends came out of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Katie.
Yes. Katie McCracken. Katie McCracken, and I hope you have extended an invitation to Katie so that she can view this, so that she can see about the impression that she has left on you, and how she has even left an impression on me.
Yeah. I think the two of you would get along. Just a little side note.
I think we probably would too.
Katie knows how important she is to me, and I know how important I am to her. As I mentioned in the video before, she and I, since, I started my whole nomad adventure and she and I met in Yellowstone, there isn't a year that's gone by that we haven't reconnected. She, when I was in Miami just last year, made a visit to come down to spend time with me. And it is my intention that when I'm in Mexico and Central America, to get her to come down there and spend some time with me. And I can foresee myself going up to Michigan and seeing her. It's just, we forged what I know is a lifelong friendship.
Wow,
so
man.
Yellowstone was great.
I'm happy for both of you. And on that note, we're going to sign off. We're going to say, thanks, darling. We appreciate this. We will be back next week, and we're going to talk more about your adventures on the high seas.
Oh, I'm waiting for to talk about that. That's on the water.
Okay, so that's it for now, guys. I will be right back. Bye.
Bye.
So that's about it. We are going to do it again next week. Again, there is a video that I will be giving. I will be giving a tour of my bedroom, so please check that out. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you next time for more drinking and planting. Oh, well, actually, I guess I'll see you next week for more interview with a traveler. Good night.